In Nevada, Bernie Sanders is the Democratic frontrunner. So now what he has said in the past is getting a lot more attention. And John Avlon has our reality check. Tell us about this, John.
Hey, guys. So look, that big win in the Nevada caucus, Bernie Sanders is now the frontrunner for the Democratic nomination. It's a stunning turn of events for a self-described Democratic socialist who declined to join the Democratic Party for decades. But Bernie Sanders' often lonely war to move Democrats to the far left seems finally to be paying off. As the frontrunner, though, Sanders' record's going to come under scrutiny in front of a far larger audience than ever before. Consider last night's interview with Anderson Cooper.
Here he is explaining why the Cuban people didn't rise up and help the U.S. overthrow Cuban leader Fidel Castro.
He educated the kids, gave them health care, totally transformed the society.
We're very opposed to the authoritarian nature of Cuba. But, it's unfair to simply say everything is bad. When Fidel Castro came into office, you know what he did? He had a massive literacy program. Is that a bad thing? Even though Fidel Castro did it?
There's a lot of dissidents imprisoned in Cuba.
That's right, and we condemn that.
Sanders' reluctance to condemn Castro completely is an honest assessment of his beliefs. For decades, he's celebrated aspects of the Cuban Communist Revolution.
For some reason or other, being very excited when Fidel Castro made the revolution in Cuba. I was a kid and I remember reading that. And it was just seemed right and appropriate that poor people were rising up against rather ugly rich people.
This is, to use a favorite phrase of the progressive left, problematic. For example, Democratic Florida Congresswoman Donna Shalala said she'd hope Senator Sanders will take time to speak to some of my constituents before he decides to sing the praises of a murderous tyrant like Fidel Castro. And it's hard to imagine this will help win Florida in the fall. But it's not just the sunny side of the Cuban dictatorship that Sanders wants to stay focused on. As mayor of Burlington, he celebrated the 6th anniversary of the Sandinista Revolution in Nicaragua at a rally in which people were offering up chants of here, there, everywhere, the Yankee will die in Spanish. And this was during the Reagan-backed support of the anti-communist Contras. But Sanders praised the regime and pronounced dictator Daniel Ortega a very impressive guy. Now, keep in mind that the Sandinista regime's human rights abuses were already widely reported at the time. But when a constituent questioned Sanders on the Sandinistas, he fired off a letter on mayoral letterhead saying, "It's my view that the point you make regarding Nicaragua and the temporary suspension of certain civil liberties is considerably more complex than your letter indicates." To add to this, Sanders' now infamous honeymoon in Moscow near the end of the Cold War, his praise for the Soviet Union's public transportation and youth programs, while somehow never finding time to meet with Nobel Prize-winning Russian dissident Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who lived in Vermont at the time, it may speak to Sanders' general sympathies at the time. Now, I'm not even getting into Sanders' 1970s advocacy for nationalizing most major industries, or his since-renounced call to abolish the CIA, or his assertion to a Vermont high school students in 1972 that some U.S. action in Vietnam was, quote, almost as bad as what Hitler did. I'm simply pointing out that Sanders' vision of democratic socialism has extended far beyond the Danish-style welfare state, as he likes to claim. And you can bet that's going to be an issue in the general election if his opponents don't make it one in the Democratic primary. And that's your reality check.
John, I hope you enjoy your time on Twitter for the next 12 to 24 hours.
See, it's that kind of fear you can't have adjust your beliefs or what you actually point out to people in the way of facts.
We appreciate you sticking to your reality and your reality check principles, despite whatever is coming your way right now.